I'm Andreas Hamberger, and this is the Hamberger Report, where I cover AI governance, enterprise architecture, and the technology decisions that actually matter to the people who have to make them. If you find this useful, subscribe and hit the like button. It helps more professionals find the channel. Now let's get into it. $5.28 million per year. That is the annual liability the ManageMyHealth board was carrying by choosing not to spend $1.5 million on architectural upgrades. Not a projection from a consultancy with a product to sell, a fiduciary risk calculation built from the breach they actually suffered, applied to the architectural debt they actually carried, and measured against the remediation they actually deferred. Long Andreas Hamberger. This is the Hamberger Report, where I cover cybersecurity explained for the people who sit around the board table. In December 2025, an attacker using the alias Kazu reportedly exfiltrated over 400,000 health documents from 125,000 New Zealanders. Valid credentials. The system did exactly what it was designed to do. It authenticated the login and granted access. What the system could not do, because no one built the capability, was ask whether that access pattern made any sense at all. Firewalls held, authentication protocols functioned. This was not a technology failure. It was a prevention architecture failure. The absence of behavioral analytics, multi-factor authentication, and intent verification. These are standard practice in financial services. A fraction of the cost now unfolding in forensic investigations, legal proceedings, and a permanent erosion of trust. This episode establishes the Sovereign Data Fortress framework, what prevention actually looks like in 2026, the formula that makes architectural debt visible to governance, and why New Zealand boards have a strategic advantage most of the world lacks. The fatal flaw in MMH's architecture was its inability to distinguish between authorized access and anomalous behavior. Kazu used valid passwords. The system responded, "Welcome." What it never asked was whether this access pattern matched anything a legitimate user would do. The solution is what I call an audit of intent, a behavioral security layer built on pattern analysis and real-time anomaly detection. It operates in 3 stages. Stage 1. Establish a baseline. For a patient portal user, normal behavior means accessing 1 to 5 documents per session, viewing records related to their own health, and maintaining sessions of 5 to 10 minutes. The system learns this from historical data and refines it continuously. Stage 2. Set detection thresholds. When an account begins downloading documents at hundreds per minute or accessing files with no clinical linkage to the authenticated user, the system flags a synthetic intent anomaly, not a rate limit, a probabilistic assessment. What is the likelihood that a human patient is performing this action? Stage 3. Execute a correction loop. The system freezes the account after the 20th anomalous download. It demands step-up authentication, biometric verification, a one-time code, or human authorization from a security operations center. The result? Containment. The breach is limited to a handful of records. A catastrophic headline becomes a minor security log entry. The deployment cost for this capability at MMH's scale would have been approximately $800,000. That is not a significant expense. It is a rounding error against the remediation costs now unfolding. Prevention fails when organizations run contemporary threats against legacy defenses. Architectural debt, the accumulated fragility from deferred upgrades and outdated infrastructure, transforms from a technical inconvenience into a personal legal liability for every director who approved the deferral. Lang quantify this through the Fiduciary Risk Exposure formula. FRA equals the cost of remediation multiplied by the probability of breach plus the potential loss. Applied to ManageMyHealth, the calculation is instructive: remediation, implementing multi-factor authentication, deploying the Audit of Intent capability, and upgrading to zero trust principles totals approximately $1.5 million. Annual breach probability, approximately 30%, based on NCSC data on financially motivated incidents. Potential loss, the ransom demand, forensic and legal costs, social license erosion, and regulatory fines totals approximately $17.6 million. 30% of $17.6 million is $5.28 million per year. The board was carrying that annual liability to avoid spending $1.5 million. Section 137 of the Companies Act requires directors to exercise reasonable care, diligence, and skill. Courts will not ask whether you could design a security architecture. They will ask whether you inquired into the vulnerabilities management identified and whether you allocated resources proportionate to known risks. Architectural debt that remains unquantified remains invisible to governance. The FR formula makes it visible. That is its entire purpose. New Zealand boards possess a strategic advantage that international competitors lack. The obligation to implement Maori data sovereignty creates security capabilities that purely technical approaches cannot match. When organizations treat Maori data as taonga, as a treasured resource requiring kaitiakitanga stewardship, they implement governance processes that detect anomalies, technical filters miss entirely. Adversaries generating synthetic communications through AI can replicate grammar and personal mannerisms. They struggle to reproduce the cultural authenticity that emerges from genuine community relationships. This is the cultural security envelope, a second verification layer sitting outside technical authentication. Technical verification confirms that a communication originated from the claimed source. Cultural verification confirms that the content aligns with established relationship norms and tikanga protocols. Both must succeed before high-stakes decisions proceed. The MMH breach had a disproportionate impact on Northland, where the majority of the 125,000 affected patients reside. Under the cultural security envelope, data tagged as relating to Northland IWI would sit inside a specific digital enclave. The bulk export Kazu executed would have triggered a hard stop. The account lacked the mana, the authority, to access aggregate records of that community. New Zealand's once-only framework creates a related vulnerability. When a single registry contains fraudulent data, that error propagates silently across every agency, relying on the federated model. Prevention within once-only architectures requires boards to treat data provenance as a governance question, not a technical one. Prevention is not the first step in cyber resilience. It is the foundation determining whether your organization thrives in the trust economy or suffers death by 1,000 compromises. If you are a director or board advisor who needs to understand cyber risk without the jargon, subscribe to the Hamberger Report. New videos every day. That is the Hamberger Report for today. If this was useful, subscribe and hit the like button. It helps more professionals find the channel. You will find links to everything we covered in the description below. I am Andreas Hamberger, and I will see you tomorrow.